Hey guys, welcome back. It's Wednesday evening. It's 6 p.m. I'm a couple minutes late. Had a little problem with Facebook. Gotta love that thing. Um, so yeah, it's been I don't know, a couple months now since we've been doing these, and it's interesting how much easier it gets each time you do it. Because I actually am using my own thing on myself, which is really interesting. So I've really appreciated all the comments and the support and the encouragement and really the kind messages that I get. So that really helps me keep wanting to do these and share my information, my wisdom, my points of view, my thought process with everybody. So thanks for being here. If you do see this on your feed, give it a share, a like, comment. I'd like to hear what your thoughts are. I always appreciate them. So yeah, I mean, just pass it around, share it with whoever you want to share it with. Put it on your page. It definitely helps me out, and hopefully it helps somebody else out. We never know who's going to see it, when they're going to see it, and how it's going to affect them. Because we listen to videos or we read books and things, and everybody's like, "Why are we reading the same book?" Or "Why are you listening to the same video? You've listened to it like 50 times. Like, why are you still listening to it?" And a lot of times, what we don't realize is that, and if you are someone that listens to them all the time, is that when you hear something, you might hear it differently in that moment than you heard it the first time you listened to it. Or there might be a phrase in there or a small, like 2 or 3 sentences that catch you in a different way than they normally do. And, I have a talk I've listened to probably, I don't know, at least 100 times, and I'll still listen to it every once in a while. And just out of nowhere, it'll bring me to tears. And I was like, man, why is that? I mean, I've listened to this all the time. Like, why all of a sudden now is that one area of this thing making me emotional? And, we change every time you walk out of your door and you go out and experience the world. And then you come back to your door. That's Adolf Huxley who's talked about, the man that walks out the door can't walk back in the same man. And it's that same idea that once you walk out your front door, you encounter other people, you encounter experiences and things and situations. Is when you come back home, you're not you anymore. You're a different person. So, and that could be even at home too. If you're by yourself, you're just you. You're in your safe space, your sanctuary, and then as you go out into the world and encounter other people, or the kids have something going on at home, or there's tons of different situations that could come up that you react to. And it's hard for us to realize that the reaction we're having is ours. When somebody does something bad to us, it's like, are you going to react to what they did? Or how are you going to react to what they said? Or how are you going to react to what they did? So that isn't them, that's you. And that's one of the hardest things for us to realize or to understand, is that, how we feel in that moment isn't, maybe the person did something bad and you're fully right to feel the way you do about what they did. The reaction you have to that feeling is your responsibility. And that's really tough for a lot of us to process. There's a lot of times where I had to process that myself, where I reacted to something and I'm like, wait, that was me. That's not your fault. The situation's ours and as the combined whole, but how I responded to or reacted to it's my problem. We have to reflect on those sometime and realize, why did I react the way I did? So those are challenging because it really questions us, who we are as a person. What inside of us made us react that way? What inside of us made us do that? And sometimes we don't know. Sometimes, it could come from such early childhood that the reaction you had to a situation, you don't even remember it ever happening to you because it was so far back. So, and that's the challenging thing we have to deal with, because we don't know what's all back there. And sometimes, we'll react to something not how we wanted to, and it makes the situation worse. So anyways, so a little bit, I'm going to go through just a little bit about what we're doing here. So if you haven't watched this yet, you'll have a good idea of what we're doing. We're playing in the grand scheme of it, but it's randomized instinctual movement. So we're going to be doing creative, improvised movement that you're going to do yourself at home. And what I'm going to do is just give you simple little tasks to do, simple little like how to's, or like, or what to do, not how to do it, I should say. So it'll be completing a task. So you'll have objects around you. So if you don't have them yet, you can grab 4, 5, or 6 things, just random objects. I have these blocks here that I use. They could be shoes, toys, books. It doesn't really matter. They're your things, whatever you. I would suggest like finding something that brings you joy, finding something that you'd be excited to pick up and touch and feel and experience again, because it's something that makes you happy. So pick 4 or 5 things, 6 things. Doesn't matter what they are. It doesn't matter how far apart they are. It doesn't matter if they're on the same level, or if they're one's higher or lower, or they're spaced apart. That's completely up to you. So just pick whatever you want, and then you're going to space them out however far apart you want. They could, like I said, they could be 5 feet apart, 6, 7 feet apart, 10 feet apart. That's completely up to you. And then what I'm going to do is just give you a body part. So I'm going to say, like, use your right elbow and take your right elbow and get to all 4 blocks or 5 or 6 things that are around you. So that's what you're going to do. And then what I'll do is actually give you different little variables or different little changes that you can use or not use based on what we're doing at the time. So there's different levels to it. We'll have level 1, level 2, and level 3. Level 1 is one thing touching, so touching the block, and then one thing you can't use. So it could be right hand's touching all your targets that you have, and your left hand can't touch the floor. Okay. So, and then level 2 would be one thing touching, right elbow, and left hand, left foot will stay off the floor. Okay. And then we're going to go into level 3, which would be right elbow, right elbow's touching, no feet, no hand. So it's 3 objects you're not allowed to use or touch the floor with, and one thing you're going to be using. So the biggest things to remember with all of this is that there are no right or wrong ways. There is no rules, so you can do anything you want. And just that, you can do anything you want. So you can either watch me move around, you can move around yourself, you can try level 1. If you like what you're doing and how you feel and you feel safe, continue through level 1. If you try level 2 and it feels a little bit too hard, stay at level 1. That's really, you're in control of your game the entire time. You're going to play it your way. You're going to play it at your ability. So really, it's a game that's customized strictly in 100% to you. I'm just giving you the tasks to complete, and then you're just going to complete it however you want. So that's kind of the cool thing about it. So that way I'm able to meet you physically, emotionally, and psychologically right where you're at. So I call it like the 0 point field. So I'm going to meet you, like, we're going to meet along the path, your journey and my journey. We're going to come together. We're meeting right here. And I'm going to say, here, try this, right? And you can take that information from that moment and meld it into your life however it works for you. So in regards to safety, we're safe on the floor. I always suggest starting on the floor. There's some people that don't believe this, but for the most part, we can't fall off the earth. So we're safe on the floor. That's why babies start off on the floor, because we can't fall off, we can't fall over. So we're basically going to relearn movement from the ground up. And we're going to do a lot of the same playful movements that children do. So that's really what this is all about, is taking away all the rules and the rights and wrongs, and like, you should do it this way, and my way's better, and by the time you're this age, you shouldn't do this anymore, and by this age, you should have done this by now. And like, we just get rid of all of that. We measure time because we have to, because I can't just, expect anybody to show up if I don't tell them what time to be here. So, but other than that, it's really up to you to know what you're capable of and try to find new ways of what you're capable of, and figure out how we can use what we're doing in here. And I'll help you understand that too as we talk, how you can use what we're doing in here in real life to make real life easier. And that's really what it's all about, is to try to see things from a different perspective, or from a more free perspective, and say like, wow, like, I never thought of doing that way at home or out in life or whatever. So all you're doing is nurturing your creative mind and being able to improvise new ways around to get out of a situation. right? It could be a threat, it could be a dangerous situation, it could be a playful situation, it could be building something, right? So if you ever seen the Lego movie where the master builders, where they can pull things out of the air and build this really cool thing that they need, right? That's really what you're doing, is you're improvising that from things that are in your space or around you. I have all these balls and strings, and that's kind of the same idea, is that I can grab one of these and one of those and one of that and bring them all together, and we're going to build this thing, right? So this is how it correlates from here out to normal life, because the more you train doing what I'm doing, what I'm going to show you, the more you'll be able to see more creative ways to live your life when you're out there. So it kind of slows the world down a little bit, because it's so noisy out there. We want to be able to slow our world down as much as possible any way we can. So sometimes that's by increasing your positive stress. That way, real stress down here is below your level of what you can handle in positive stress. So that way it quiets this down so you can actually relax again. So that's kind of some of the benefits you can gain from doing just simple movements like playing on the floor, and just be finding your inner child back and nurturing your inner child and nurturing your empathy and your creativity. The levels I said are 1, 2, and 3. You'll have either 1 restriction, 2 restrictions, or 3 restrictions. And it's all about safety. So if you feel like you're doing too much or it starts to hurt, well, then you have to practice some self-awareness and realize that maybe what you're doing is too much and you need to back off a little bit, or redirect your movement and try something different that might work better. So there's a lot of different ways to work it. But remember, there are no rules or rights or wrongs. So you're just doing the best you can. And that's something to remember with what we're all dealing with right now during the pandemic, is that we're all just doing the best we can. We'll talk about that a little bit later, the liminal space, or the void. I said this in a quote on my Facebook the other day, where, in between the 2 notes of a song is that white space. And enough of those white spaces in between the black notes create the melody. So without the space in between, we'd have one long note that never stopped, right? And the other way to look at it is that in between each wave, we won't know there's a wave unless there's a middle or a trough in between. So 2020 right now is really our liminal space, or our void between what used to be our world and what's coming. So in this void of time, you're able to create anything you can and try to learn a new way of doing things and learn the way the world's going to be next, and just kind of flow with it and just do the best you can. So give yourself some grace. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. So yeah, levels 1, 2, and 3. Take your time, be safe, move around on the floor, let yourself go a little bit. If you got to realize that you're going to do something silly and improvised, that depending on who's watching you, you'll play differently. If you don't feel safe or you feel embarrassed or silly, you'll play the game differently because other people are watching you. So your brain won't go into the play state or the flow state unless it feels safe. So you want to be able to feel safe to be able to play, because your nervous system is focused on self-preservation or survival. So it's not going to do something novel and silly if it knows that there's a chance something could hurt it. So that's how this all kind of works. All right, so let's do just a simple movement to get moving, move around a little bit. You say your targets anywhere you want. This is just going to be a movement without restriction. So it won't even be a level 1. It's just going to get you comfortable with kind of moving around in your space, understanding how it feels to be where you're at. Make sure you're comfortable on the floor. You'll learn kind of how your body is working right now, whether it's kind of moldy and bendy, or if it's kind of stuck and rigid from sitting all day, or if you haven't really moved much during the pandemic and you've been kind of lazy like myself. It happens. We're all just doing it the best we can. So most of my brain power has gone into mental health, keeping myself sane, which is challenging, and less about movement. And obviously I know myself that movement and mental health go hand in hand. So we need the stronger our body is, the better our mental health is. And we can talk about that a little bit more too. So So let's just do a simple movement around. Let's just do our right knee as our touching point. So we're going to use our right knee and we're going to go to the objects we have around us. And there's no restrictions this time. And I'll give the restrictions as we go, as we start to move forward. So your right knee will be touching. Just go to all 4 blocks. I'm going to touch some of the balls above me here and blocks. So just take your time and move around. Kind of go through a little bit of a self-awareness test of how this feels to move around this way on the floor. Are you comfortable? Do you feel rigid and stiff? Do you feel soft and playful? Do you feel like creative? And just kind of work with that. And then you'll have kind of a baseline to work from as you move forward. So, all right. So let's use our right knee. We're going to go to all 4 targets and then whatever else you want to touch. If you start getting the feeling of wanting to touch more things, just touch all the things you want with the right knee. That's all it comes down to. So, all right. So here we go. So just move any way you want. Take your time. So you notice I'm moving kind of like in a ball. And there's a lot of people that I call it like the child brain and the adult brain, where the children and babies, they roll around in a ball. I always call myself a child or a baby, which I'm okay with that because why not be a child your whole life? I mean, it's way more fun. So we're just going to roll around like a ball because it's way easier on our body. We can stay on our soft spots, and we're not rolling around like a board, kind of stuck in one place. So you're just kind of breaking it down a little bit and kind of like moving in a soft way instead of a rigid like adult way. You're just kind of like bendy, make yourself really bendy. So let's start at easy level 1. So let's do our right elbows touching and our left knee off the floor. So right elbow will touch and your left knee will stay off the floor the entire time. So as you get to all your spots, you're just going to do the best you can to keep the knee from touching the floor. But you remember, as I said in the beginning, there are no rules or rights or wrongs. You can do anything you want. So if your left knee touches the floor by accident, you didn't really hurt yourself or anybody else unless you slammed your knee into the floor somehow. So just take your time. If it happens, it doesn't matter. Just do the best you can, okay? So right elbow is going to touch, left knee's off the floor. All right, so here we go. So if you're feeling a little challenged, you can see real easily how changing one little thing, how much that changes our life. And we always say this, I don't know if you ever heard it, we talk about it this way, but there's a lot of things that happen all over the world all the time, and we want to care about all the things in the world all the time, but we really can't because we have our own life to worry about. And so it's not that we don't care about the other things in the world and other people in the world, but sometimes we get overwhelmed. And right now we have to give people grace and kindness and patience, because think about what you're dealing with right now, mentally and physically, emotionally, with everything that's going on. And remember, everybody else is doing the exact same thing their own way. So a lot of us are very maxed out right now. We're doing the best we can with what we have. And we realize that, yes, things are challenging, but we didn't realize how challenging it was until it truly affected us. So it's like, trees fall down all the time. They fall down in the woods all the time. They fall down, wherever. And we don't really notice the trees falling down when they fall down. But if the tree falls down and blocks the road that you're trying to get to work on, and now you're 20 minutes late for work, now the tree bothers you. So it's the same with this, is when you change one tiny variable and all of a sudden it's hard again, it's a struggle. It's because in our life, it doesn't take very much of a switch, very much of a change to disrupt our life. And that's what we have to remember, is that, with everything that's going on right now, everybody's in this this struggle, or this pivot or flux. So we're all doing the best we can. So improvisation or improvising is a really big thing for right now. And it's what we're doing right here. It's just improvised movement. We're going, how do I get my body using this thing, this part of my body, to the other part, the other things I'm supposed to touch, without letting the other things that I said touch the floor, right? So you're just improvising in your own mind. You're creating what to do with yourself to get yourself around to different places, okay? So, but it's the same in life, is that when you're creating something new or building something new, you're improvising. It doesn't exist. So you're like, how can I take this that already does exist and make it fit to what I need? And that's improvising, right? So you're looking around your space, like where all these balls are at, and going, how can I use 3 reds, 2 oranges, 1 green, and a blue, and bring them all together and make this thing? And that's the same thing you do in real life, is that you're just looking at the space around you for what you're trying to build and trying to put something together. So yes, let's do another level 1. Let's do left knee touching, and let's keep our right hand off the floor. So your left knee's going to touch and your right hand's going to be off the floor, okay? If you haven't started to roll around like a ball yet, or haven't tried, try to relax a little bit and just take your time and move around. Do the best you can. Nobody's here to judge you. I can't even see you. So I can't even see that you're not moving as good as I am, because I'm awesome, right? Well, I like to think that, at least. But if you remember, you know, our bodies start to get more rigid as we stop believing in what we're capable of or what we're able to accomplish. But as I talked about last week, there's this weird thing that I don't really understand. I haven't for a long time. And I really thought about it the other day, and I talked about it a little more in depth last week. But, you know, young kids from like 0 to 5 were like, oh, so-and-so's kid didn't hit this milestone, or they're not walking yet, or they're not crawling yet, or they didn't do this yet. And then we go into this like, oh, well, by this age, you're too old to be doing that. By 10, you shouldn't be doing that anymore. And by 12, you shouldn't be doing that anymore. And then it switches again. Well, you don't have your license yet. You're 16. Well, you didn't graduate high school yet. You're 18. You didn't like go to college yet. You're 21, right? And then it goes back the other way again, where you're going, oh, you're that old, so you should have already had that. Why haven't you like done that? And then it goes to, oh, you're too old to do that again. You're too old to go on vacation. You're too old to go to this place. You're too old to like do this trip. So we go through this cycle of like, at one point you're too young, or you're not old, or you're too old. The other point you're too young, and then you're too old again, then you're too young again. We do that our whole lives, and it's craziness. So your movement and your play and your body come from like what you feel you're capable of and what you believe you're capable of. And remembering that, you're the only one that knows that. So your soul, yourself, your intuition, the person you are inside would never tell you a lie. They're not going to say anything bad about self. That's you hearing other people have told you and holding on to that and embodying that and believing what they told you, instead of realizing that you're just you and you can do anything you want anyways. So it's figuring out how to let all that go and be able to move past it. So let's do left foot touching. It's gonna be our touch point. And let's keep our right foot off the floor. So left foot's touching, right foot's off the floor, okay? So remember, you're just doing the best you can. Move around any way you want. You might feel silly and kind of weird, and that's okay. And you got to remember too, like, it really depends on who's watching you, how many people are watching you. If people watching you are encouraging you and cheering you on, or if they're making fun of you. So that's how life works. So it's all built on relationships and who we trust and who's around us. All of our movements, all of our decisions, like, are you going to decide to roll on your back to get to the next ball or the next block? Or are you going to like crawl over there? Are you going to flip over, do jumping jacks or whatever? it really matters on like who's watching you or how many people are watching you. So when I have the cube set up at like health fairs and stuff, everybody's looking at it like, oh, it looks really simple and it's nothing, it's just balls and strings. And then they try it and they're like, man, I thought I'd be a lot better at that than I am. And I was like, but you have to remember there's 12 people, like 12 complete strangers that you don't know watching you do it. So all those people are watching you do something silly and improvised and creative that you've never done before. You're basically dancing by yourself in front of 12 strangers. So that's in a public space, but it's the same thing. If we decide to move a certain way or make a silly face or whatever, you have to be comfortable enough to do it with the people that are watching you, right? So every decision you make, every move you make, everything you do with your body is based on your belief system of what you think you're capable of, or if you're embarrassed by the people watching you, or you want to show off to the people watching you, right? So all of those things matter in our movement. All of the things matter in our decisions and how fast we move and how well we move. So things to think about. So when you're playing this, maybe you don't feel that comfortable. Maybe I said this last week and I'm going to say it again. And obviously I don't want you to reflect on it in the moment, but if you're doing this and your spouse or your partner is watching you do this and they you feel uncomfortable having them watch you be silly or do crazy things, you may want to pause a little bit later and reflect on why you feel that way, because that's the only way to be able to get into play or into flow is because you have to feel safe to do so. So just something to remember and something to think about for later. Um, so all of this, all of these silly movements that you do are based on how you feel about the people watching you. And what I realize is how much it matters to me that you're watching me, because I'm doing something completely improvised and different, my own way, and I know you're watching me. And I have to remember that, I don't care. I'm not embarrassed. I've spent 12 years working on this, and I've helped well over 1,000 people with many things from chronic pain to PTSD to performance, sports performance, all kinds of things. So I'm long past all of that stuff. So anyways, let's do another level one. Let's use our right shoulder as our touch point. That's a little more challenging. Our right shoulder will touch and our left knee will be off the floor, okay? So here we go. Let's do this. Remember, just do the best you can. You're gonna figure out how to get your shoulder over there. A lot of times we're not used to using things that we're not used to touching with. And that's why I like to give people different things, because it really doesn't matter what we're touching with. We're just thinking that there's must be something complicated about this because I don't really understand it. But there isn't. It's just math. It's just you as an uncontrollable variable moving around the space of controlled variables. There's just you in this box, or you in your house, and you're just moving around the best you can. And realizing how much what we're doing here applies so much to our life out there. How much being around your kids. Do you feel silly and playful around your kids, or do you feel like you have to be serious and be mom, or be serious and be dad, instead of like being silly and playing? Right? It really only comes down to like how you feel about yourself and how you feel that you should be grown up and old all the time, or be fun and silly and play and guide and lead and help them and nurture them and help them understand how the world works. So just a lot of different ways of looking at it. So all right, so let's do a level two. So let's do our right elbow touching, and our both feet will stay off the floor. Okay, so right elbow's touching, both feet will stay off the floor the whole time. Okay. it takes a little bit for a lot of people to let go. We don't want to let go. We're holding on to all these things that we were told through our whole lives over and over and over again by so many different people. We're mimicking, we're watching. How does the rest of society live? How does like people my age look? What are they buying? What are they listening to? Those are the fads and like the right ways and the wrong ways, and you're not doing it like everybody else. So your way is wrong and my way is better. And it's getting out of that egocentric mindset of like, you have it, I need it. You bought it, I should buy it too because we're the same age, we're the same gender or non-gender. So it's really like, are you emulating somebody else or watching what other people are doing and what other people are buying? Or do you just care about what you want and what you need for yourself and worrying more about your own opinion on how to live your life than worrying about what other people's opinions are of your life? So just some things to think about. So there was, I'm going to mix this up a little bit on my notes, but so as we move into this space, this void, right, this liminal space, and we've all been processing it now for a few months. It's the pandemic, it's the void, it's the pause, it's the liminal space. There's like this, like the pause between what was the world that we knew and what's becoming of the world that we'll now find out in the future. So if you don't know where to start with something because you don't really know what you want for your life, first sit down and figure out what do you want? Like, where do you want to go with yourself? Where do you want the future to hold for you? Because it's really hard for us to see outside of our own reality. And one thing that pandemic has done is that it's pushed people out of the reality that they were comfortable in. And now you have this chance, this moment in your life, this moment in history to start something that you weren't comfortable starting before because you didn't think you were ready. You didn't think you could do it. You didn't think you were like, you didn't think you had it in you, or you didn't have the time, or you didn't have the money or the know-how or whatever. But what this did for all of us as people is to like give us a nudge. It kind of nudged us all off the cliff together, and now we're falling. And the thing about this is that you're given a chance to build your parachute on the way down. You were pushed off of the ledge just hard enough to go, now what am I going to do? I have to figure something out quick. I have to improvise. All right. So now you're figuring out what you want for your life and your family to improvise and move forward and see where your life would be outside of here. Get off the ship and see what's out there that you can work on. So once you jump, now you have to improvise. And the best way to improvise is to break down where you think you're going or what you want into the tiniest little pieces you can. The tiniest little nuggets, the tiniest little threads of information, and then build off of that. That way, each little thing you do is you're capable of handling each little thing based on what you already know how to do. And then you're going to keep evolving off of that and keep gathering information. So there's a guy who had a video talking about, people always talk about wanting to build video games. He goes, well, that's great. You want to build a video game, but what part of the video game do you want to build? Right? You can't just build the whole video game because there's so much to it that you would never build the whole video game. So he goes, you have to focus in on one thing that you want to get really good at. And he goes, all I do is build characters. My job is to build a character of a video game. So I get hired by all these companies to build just their characters for their games, not the whole game, just the character. So he put all of his efforts into going, well, how do I help? How do I specialize in this one thing? And there's all this information. You have the internet, and books and podcasts and all this information. And you pick one thing that you want to specialize in, very tiny little thing you want to specialize in. And then you start listening to all the information you can to like keep learning about that one thing. Learn about that for 5 years, 10 years, or whatever, and just become the master of that one thing. And now you're specialized into this one tiny little piece that everybody needs you for. Right. And that's how you can do that. So, so you have to just start. You have to begin somewhere. You can't there's never going to be the great time or the right time, or you're never going to feel like it in the moment. You just have to start and pick that one thing and really start just like doing something with it or learning about it. Even if you don't even like build a business around it for like 2 years, pick this one thing and just study it for 2 whole years, every day, a little bit, 30 minutes a day, and studying this one thing, and you'll keep getting better and better at it. And then soon people will want you to teach them your ways of doing it. Okay. All right. So let's do another level 2. Let's do no hands on the floor at all. So the hands are going to stay off the floor. Let's use our right foot to touch with. So right foot's touching, no hands on the floor. Okay. So I had this happen earlier again. If you're doing this and I'm calling you out on it, that's fine. Because there really is no wrong way. But if you want a tip, when I say no hands, a lot of people hold their hands up in the air or their arms. And I only took your hands away. I didn't take your whole arm away. So you can use your elbows, and use your wrists, all these things to push around with and move around on. Right. So you're if you're holding your arms up in the air trying to move around, you really don't have to. You can use all the other pieces of your arm that aren't your hand. So even if your hand actually touch the floor, it doesn't matter, right? Because you're just doing the best you can anyways. So um, one of the things, the liminal space I brought up earlier, like the void, because right now there's a lot of people that having trouble with anxiety and being uneasy, and a lot of that comes from that liminal space or that void. That's where we're in right now, is because we're all in this present awareness. We're all here in the moment right now, witnessing each other and sharing information and trying to understand what's all going on and gather information to like navigate life the best we can. So present awareness is very challenging because you're just here and now all the time. So we're far enough away from what was, right? We're getting into the end of the year now. It's almost November. It's craziness to me. But February is so long ago, and we've gone through so much since then. Remember, Tiger King was this year, back in February, March, or something like that. Never watched it, but that was the same year. If that kind of messes you up a little bit, we're still in the same year as that. So we're so far away from what was, and we still have no idea. We have no possible way of knowing what's next, or what the world will become after this, or what it's going to settle into. I mean, it could be a year or more. We really don't know before we get all of this back to some sort of normalcy. So present awareness, we can only predict out. I mean, right now we have a really big election coming up, and we don't know what's going to happen with that. So really right now, our present awareness is in a space of now to like 2 weeks from now. And that's about the most you can plan, because it's just shifting and ebbing and flowing constantly right now. So, give yourself a lot of grace and patience, and treat a lot of people with kindness and just grace and patience, and realize that, think about how hard it is for you right now, and realize that everybody is going through the same thing in one way or another. We're all challenged with what we're trying to figure out right now. So, all right, so let's do another level 2. Let's do no right foot, no left hand. All right, so your right foot and left hand will stay off the floor the whole time, and your right hand will touch. So the right hand will touch the objects. Your left hand and right foot will stay off the floor, okay? So if you're not rolling yet, you should be on your back. It's a lot easier. If you haven't tried to get around as a ball or a little baby, it's a lot easier to move around. So there's another big topic. It doesn't sound like a big topic. If I say it, you're going to be like, what are you talking about? But it's very true for a lot of people, and it was very true for myself. It was a really hard thing I had to learn, and that's asking for help. And knowing that you don't need to know how to do everything. You don't need to know how to start everything. What you do need to know how to do is ask for help. And, with all the stuff going on right now, we're all trying to be vigilant. We're all trying to be independent. We're all trying to do it. We can handle this ourselves. Do it ourselves. I can handle this. I don't need anybody else. But we do need other people. We need people all the time, and it's challenging being apart right now because we don't have community. We don't have togetherness, and we don't have the ability to gather together and build something or work together. But with the kids trying to learn, and the teachers trying to learn, and everybody trying to figure out how to make all of this work in our new world right now, we do need to ask for help. We need to help each other. So if you're not great at asking for help yourself, it's something to practice. If you know other people are struggling, maybe you should offer help first and then see if they accept it. It's very challenging right now for everybody. So any kind of help we can provide each other, any kind of help that we can offer or ask for, it's not easy because we don't want to take a handout. We don't want to we don't want to feel like we're not capable. But everybody right now is pivoting. Everybody right now is in transition. So we all need to help each other. You need to be comfortable asking for help and offer help to other people. So we're just doing the best we can. So, all right, let's do a level 3. The level 3 is 1 touch point, 3 restrictions. So these get a little more challenging. So like I said in the beginning, if you're comfortable at level 2, stay at level 2. If you're comfortable at level 1, stay at level 1. So it's really up to you to understand your body, what you're capable of, and how you're going to move around and make sure you're not hurting yourself. So you're safe on the floor. You're not going to fall off the earth. You're not going to land in space somewhere and float around like a satellite. So, all right. So let's do no feet and no left hand. So our right elbow will touch, no feet, no left hand on the floor. Okay. So just do the best you can. All right. Those level 3s get a little harder. Trying to get your body around without letting things. I don't know if y'all saw, but I actually touched my feet to the floor a couple times. So, yeah, gets you moving, gets your body warmed up, and gets us out of our head a little bit, or maybe in your head a little bit, because you're realizing that if you're doing this in front of other people, that you might feel uncomfortable. And like we said in the beginning, that feeling you have is valid. The feeling you're having for doing something random or silly in front of other people, that feeling is real. It's valid. How are you going to react to that feeling, or how can you process that feeling? That's something you can reflect on and work on and going, okay, so when I'm in front of these people or when I'm by myself, I actually have people that tell me that I know for a fact live by themselves, that tell me that they don't want to do the stuff with the blocks because they're afraid of how they'll look to other people. And that goes way deeper than a lot of things, to be not comfortable alone by yourself, locked away in your house, and being able to move in silly ways or playful ways. So it's there's a lot of things we have to process around that. So but yeah, your feeling around it, your emotions around it, they're valid, they're real, and it's up to you to figure out why you feel that way and find help. So all right, so let's do another level 3. Let's do no hands at all and no right foot. Okay, so right foot off the floor, hands off the floor. We're gonna use our left elbow to touch with. So hands and right foot will stay off the floor and our left elbow is touching, okay? Remember, you're just doing the best you can. You're improvising, you're being creative, you're being silly and fun. It's challenging, you know. It depends on who's watching you. If you're moving around in a way you haven't moved around before, and you don't feel comfortable, it could be who's watching you. Are you comfortable with the person that's watching you move around and be silly? So those are all things to think about on our own of why we feel the way we do. So, uh, so yeah, I want to let everybody know that I am doing virtual sessions. So if you've attended before, I am going to start doing some semi-private. So if we're going to do some, if you're interested, definitely reach out to me for individual sessions. I'm going to start doing semi-private. So if there's 5 or 6 people or 10 people that want to do this with me, and you're interested in that, we can set up a time to discuss that and set up a time that works best for everybody. Kind of like a little party, I guess, if you want to say, a little movement party. So we can all do Zooms together from wherever you're at. You can have people together in one room. It's really up to you. So instead of doing it with everybody all over the world, we can do it with 5 or 6 people. So I can teach you all the same stuff we're doing. We can go a little deeper into it. We can have a lot more fun when there's just a few of us working together. So if you want to reach out to me, my email is joe@neuralmovementtherapy.com. It's NEURAL movementtherapy.com. Our new website is movetherapy.org. Move, M-O-V-E, therapy.org. So reach out to me on there. You can schedule with me on there. Instagram is infinite_movements, and Facebook is Move Massage Raleigh. And I look forward to hearing from you guys. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, I'm always open to topics. So if you want me to discuss something from my point of view, I always suggest that the rest of the world's crazy enough the way it is. There's plenty of ways to find other people's points of view on current events. So I like to reserve this space for philosophy and education and learning and play, and find ways to help people with mental health and movement and play out in the real world and be able to live our lives more simple and more free, and think of it from a different perspective. So, but shoot me different topics, ideas, suggestions, anything you want me to talk about. Semi-private, private sessions, I'm definitely open to that and available. So if you have 5 or 6 people you want to get together for that, I am open for those. Or if you want to do a single session with myself, we can go a little bit deeper into the movement and the psychology and help you get out of your own way and moving forward into this liminal space, this void. That way you're ready for what's next, because the new world coming up is going to be amazing. I just have a feeling about that deep inside that we're in for some really amazing things coming up. So, yeah, that's all I got for tonight. I appreciate you coming by. You stopped in, give me a share, likes, comments, anything like that. And I will see you guys again in a week. So have an amazing week. Stay awesome and find a reason to laugh every single day. All right, guys. Have a great night. See ya.